What is up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of First Date Unsolved. Thanks for joining me again. It is roughly 7:30 a.m. here. It's Labor Day. I am the only person in the house awake, but the mascots are running around making noise. So, Odin is directly behind me right now, staring at me because, I don't know, he wants to be pet or loved or cuddled or whatever. Pumpkin's running around, so you might hear her. I apologize in advance. So, and I know a lot of you are gonna nod your head yes to this. I can already picture it. But have any of you ever Googled something just to go down a crazy rabbit hole and not even intend to? You type in one thing, one topic, and before you know it, it's hours later. You have no idea how you got to this point. You have no idea what time it is or even what day it is sometimes. And you're just, way down this hole for no reason. That's what happened to me when I was researching the case I'll be covering today. I'm going to try to go over this slowly. Bear with me. So it all started with a case that isn't even talked about in this episode. I started off with looking into what I could find out about an unsolved murder of Mary Amelia Allen. So I originally looked up Mary Amelia Allen, and I came across a YouTube video with Mary's name in the title, and that video included another cold case involving Tina Marie Lauser. I think that video, I didn't watch the whole video. I think it's like 4 hours long. It's two segments, I think, combined. Anyway, I'm going down that rabbit hole again. So, I'm half listening to the video, half doing other things when I decide to keep looking for more info. I came across a Reddit post dedicated to that same video and made the biggest mistake of looking at the comments. In the comments, someone said that at one point they thought Tina's case, so Tina Lauser, they thought her case was related to another 1981 homicide involving Linda O'Day. And then that led me to looking into Linda O'Day. So I started out with Mary Allen, ended up on Tina, and then somehow found Linda. So it was wild. Next thing you know, I have 12 tabs open in Chrome, and that kind of thing gives me anxiety. It drives me crazy. And I decided that was the perfect time to pause. Take a little break. We'll come back. I will talk about Mary Amelia Allen and Linda M. O'Day again down the line at some point, but they'll most likely end up in a homage episode, unfortunately. I am hopeful that I will be able to recruit someone to help me out with Linda's case. I did come across a young man on Reddit. He did agree with me that there's no information on anyone in Delaware. And he has done his own research. He said he would email that over to me. We could talk, chat, but he hasn't gotten to it yet. It's fine. People are busy. People don't want to be bothered with my podcast. It's fine. But you all know how that story goes already if you've been here for season 1. So we'll see. We'll see what I can do for those ladies. Anyway, back to Tina. Tina's case is another one that seems to have gotten attention from other podcasts because in addition to the YouTube video on the Nefarious channel, I also came across an episode that the podcast Criminology put out in February of 2020. Like with the Nefarious channel, a lot of other creators come across crimes in Delaware just because they're doing something with the 50 states. They'll do all 50 states and they'll choose 1 or 2 crimes in each state, and that's how they stumble upon Delaware. That's cool and all, but here at First Date Unsolved, it's all Delaware crimes all the time. I will say that it has been interesting to stumble upon the shows that cover Delaware cases because I just always assume that no one else in the country knows we're even here. It sucks if people only get to hear about us because of a devastating and unsolved crime like Tina's. But any coverage that these victims can get is good coverage, in my opinion. It's not so great for Delaware, but for the victims, you know, awareness is awareness, advocation is advocation. It's good for the victim. One more quick note, though, before we get into this, is that I did find Tina's daughter and I let her know that I was going to be covering her mom's case. She did not take it very well. She didn't cuss me out or anything. I have been cussed out before. She didn't cuss me out, but she was not happy that, this was being brought back up. I asked if she wanted to participate in the episode, and she wasn't having it. She wasn't thrilled. She was around 2 years old when her mother passed, and this, of course, is a very serious and sensitive topic for not only her, but her loved ones as well. If you are a listener of the show, you know that I'm not here to do any harm. The Lauser's daughter is concerned about unwanted attention for her and her family, so I will not be mentioning her name in this episode. This case is very much cold, and I'm just here to create awareness for Tina. Someone may remember something from 1981, or someone may finally feel guilty enough to come forward. You truly never know what could happen. That's why I do this. And I just ask that if you do take interest in this case, if you do research outside of this episode, that you please not reach out to any of Tina's family because they don't want to be harassed and they don't want to be contacted about this. With that out of the way, let's dive into today's case. And I hope that rabbit hole situation I laid out didn't confuse anyone. Today we are talking about Tina Marie Lauser. Tina Marie Hesse was born in Chesapeake City, Maryland on January 8th, 1956 to Bob and Elizabeth Hesse. Tina is one of 7 children. When she was a little older than a year, her parents noticed that she wasn't trying to talk and wasn't making, the cute sounds like mama and dada that infants often make. Mr. and Mrs. Hesse took their baby girl to the doctor to try and get to the root of the problem. It took some time and a process of elimination, but after a few months, doctors determined that Tina was hearing impaired. As with any disability, growing up deaf was a challenge for Tina, but the family did the best they could with what they had. The Hesses would move to the Willow Run area of Wilmington in 1964 when Tina was 8 years old. I'm not sure of the reason for the move or if the Hesses knew about the education situation in Delaware, but there were little to no options for deaf children at that time in the state. Because there were no schools specifically dedicated to deaf children in Delaware, Tina's parents thought she should take a shot attending a school for the blind back in Germantown, Maryland. This situation was not ideal at all, and poor Tina kind of hated attending school because it was hard for her to communicate with the other children. And I read and I heard that some of the other kids kind of were mean to her and they bullied her a little bit, so that doesn't make, no one likes going to school and that doesn't make it any easier. In 1969, a deaf school opened in Newark, and this was wonderful news for the Hesses. Tina transferred schools and she felt so much more at home. She would go on to graduate from the school in 1975 and would get her first job at UAD not long after. Around this time is when Tina also joined the Wilmington Club for the Deaf. The Delaware Association for the Deaf, or DAD, DAD for short, holds all kinds of events for people who are hard of hearing, including their popular dingo. You get it? Deaf bingo? I thought that was really clever. Sorry. But this is the place where Tina met Tom Lauser. If you couldn't tell by the last name, this is the man who would eventually become Tina's husband. In 1977, Tina started working at the Bank of Delaware in Wilmington through a program designed to help people with disabilities find jobs. She started out as a part-time employee and then was brought on full-time where she worked second shift. Although she was deaf, she was able to read lips and could speak just enough to get her point across. Her co-workers described her as a great worker and said that she was very dependable. They also said that it was surprisingly easy to communicate with her, and Tina took her job very seriously and was by the book. No games, no horseplay. She was there to work. All in all, a great employee. Tina and Tom married on September 7th, 1978, and the wedding was held at the club where they met. Now, little was known about Tom, at least as far as Tina's family was concerned. Maybe the couple were just private about their relationship. Who knows, who's to say? But I did find out that Tom was 10 years older than his wife, and he had a son from a previous marriage that the Hesse family didn't find out about until after Tina and Tom were already married. Tina gave birth to their daughter in 1979, but sadly, the marriage fell apart shortly after. There were quite a few bumps on the road to marital bliss, and it's possible that the two didn't know each other as well as they thought they did. So 9 months after tying the knot, the couple would separate but continue to co-parent their baby. Tina and her daughter moved into an apartment with her sister and her sister's husband off of Kirkwood Highway. Tina and Tom would still do things together with their baby and could often be seen out in public together with other members of the Deaf Club during their separation. The two would discuss getting back together and would try to rekindle their marriage, which resulted in a second pregnancy. Since things didn't work out so well the first go-around, the couple agreed to live separately until after the first trimester. I don't know if that sounds weird to you, but Tom attempted to explain his reasoning as it just made sense to him that they should wait to make sure that the pregnancy was stable before they dived back into cohabitating. A lot of couples and expecting mothers won't make any official announcements or major decisions until after the 3-month mark. Too much can go wrong in the beginning of a pregnancy, and it's common practice to not get family and friends too excited until you know for sure that things are stable and you're in the clear. I don't know if this detail has any significance at all to the story, but it was mentioned a lot, and I kind of think you guys can pick up on where it's going, but opinions. I personally don't think, I'm not looking too much into this, put it that way. So, but yeah, that's what they decided. The decision was between both of them, and that's where that stands. And that all brings us to the day that Tina disappeared. She had just celebrated her birthday a few weeks prior. She was pregnant, taking care of her toddler, working things out with Tom, and still plugging along at the Bank of Delaware in Wilmington. Tina was a busy woman. Seemed like her life was going great, on the right track, all until this day. Tina's normal hours as a proof operator were from 1 p.m. to 10 p.m. with a dinner break around 4 p.m. Pretty standard second shift hours. In her role at the bank, Lauser was a part of a team responsible for verifying hundreds and sometimes thousands of transactions. Fridays were a little different, and Tina's team knew it was entirely possible that they could be working until midnight, depending on the day's activities. You know, Fridays are always the busiest banking day. A lot of people get paid. They're depositing checks, cashing checks, getting money out for the weekend, what have you. It's a busy banking day. It's notoriously the busiest banking day. Tina and her team handled all the transactions from the bank's branches in Newcastle County, as well as transactions from 5 other branches in Lower Delaware. So that's at least 5 from Lower Delaware. I don't know how many branches they had in Newcastle County. That's a lot of transactions to look through. in one day. Friday, January 30th, 1981, was a busy day just like any other Friday. Around 7:15 p.m., Tina and two other coworkers started to head out the door on their 30-minute break to grab some snacks for themselves and for the rest of the team. A phone started to ring, so one of the ladies with Tina stopped to answer it, and the other decided to wait for her. Tina kept on heading out the door, and the people she worked with said that that was normal of her. 30 minutes is not a very long break, so Tina wanted to get out, get what she needed, and get back in time. I am very much the same way, especially if I'm hungry. I'm not going to wait for you. If you forgot your wallet or whatever, I'm sorry. I'm probably already in the car down the street. So that was around 7:15 p.m. Tina headed out the door. Her two coworkers stayed behind. At 7:55 p.m., Tina still wasn't back, so fellow employees became alarmed. Tina was always punctual and would not be late unless something serious had happened. The police were called at 8:15 p.m. because Tina had still not shown back up. But they notified the concerned callers that there really wasn't anything they could do since Tina is a grown woman and could come and go as she pleased. At the time of her disappearance, Tina was described as being 5'6" and 135 pounds. She had dark brown shoulder-length hair and dark brown eyes. She was last seen wearing a light blue ski jacket, a turtleneck, and blue jeans. Hours later, after the police were notified, Tina's blue Pontiac Astra was discovered on Van Buren Street, about 200 feet from the Argo Mini Mart, where her and her coworkers visited frequently for snacks. The Argo Mini Mart is now a Shell station, and it's located at 1022 Delaware Avenue. It's the gas station on Delaware Avenue just before the Delaware Children's Theater. If you've been on that road at all, especially during peak hours during, I keep wanting to say prime time. It's not prime time. But if you've been on that road, you know that gas station is easy to get into, but not so easy to get out of. So Tina's car was found on Van Buren Street, and it was discovered with a flat tire with the keys still inside of the ignition. So the location where the car was found was on the route typically taken from the bank to the mini mart, so that wasn't out of the ordinary. And, despite no signs of struggle, police were confident that something awful had happened, and their assumption was that Tina never made it to her destination. Before the weekend was over, Tina's wallet was discovered about 3 miles south of Port Penn off of Route 9. The area where the wallet was found is over 20 miles away from where her car was abandoned. All along Route 9 between Port Penn and Augustine Beach, checks from Tina's checkbook were found scattered on the roadway, and her debit and credit cards were found bent and destroyed. The most bizarre discovery was when someone found Tina's shoes cleaned up and neatly placed on the ice in the middle of a frozen pond several miles from where the wallet was even located. While the shoes had been wiped down, scuff marks were visible on the heels of the shoes, indicating that the woman had been dragged. After this discovery, the Bank of Delaware issued a statement and offered a $5,000 reward for anyone with information leading to Tina's whereabouts. I know the company I work for wouldn't put up a reward like that, so I don't know if that's a sign of the times or if it just shows how valued she was there, but I thought, a $5,000 reward from her place of employment was, that's pretty cool. From the time that Tina vanished to the time that her body was discovered in March, investigators determined that the flat tire on Lauser's car was done so intentionally. It was also determined that Tina did in fact make it to the mini mart and even purchased $5 worth of gas while she was there. An unknown caller gave police a tip that placed Tina at the gas station with another woman on the evening she disappeared. It seemed as though Tina knew the woman because the two were witnessed communicating through sign language. And when Tina left the mini mart, this unknown woman was seen leaving in the car with her. A composite sketch of the woman was created and was shared locally. A copy of the sketch was even posted up in the Club for the Deaf, but no one came forward with any information on the mystery woman. Since she knew sign language, it was assumed that maybe she was also a member of the club, but no one there recognized her, or, at least no one came forward with any details on her. The female seen with Tina that day is described as being white, 5'4" and a medium build, between the ages of 20 and 25, with shoulder-length brown hair. The sketch makes it seem as though the woman had a perm because her hair looks curly, at least to me. And, it's the 80s. Perms were all the rage then. The woman was also said to be wearing a green jacket and some blue jeans. The fact that Tina left in her own vehicle with this lady means that either Tina or the persons responsible for her death drove the car back to the mini mart after it left the gas station. It circled back around at some point in time. Someone popped one of the tires and abandoned the car with the key still inside between 7:20-ish p.m. and 1 a.m. when police found the car. That's a pretty big range, and even though that is a pretty busy area of the city now, I'm not sure what it was like back then. I would think someone saw something, but here we are, it's still cold. Who knows? So February came and went, and as March arrived, the weather slowly started to warm up and things began to thaw. On March 29th, in the same area where Tina's wallet and shoes were found, a husband and wife who were out fishing saw Tina's lifeless body floating face down under a wooden bridge. I don't know why I said wooded. Sorry. She was found still wearing her light blue ski jacket and jeans. Her body had been weighed down with cinder blocks, and she had multiple stab wounds to her neck and chest. She was identified using dental records, and those stab wounds were later determined to be her cause of death. There were also very shallow stab wounds on her back, and a family member of Tina's describes these stab wounds as if it were like someone was walking behind her and forcing her to walk forward with subtle stabs. So like someone is behind you holding the knife to you. You're resisting. You don't want to keep moving. So they're poking you, jabbing you just enough to cause pain and make you move forward. So that's how a family member of Tina's viewed those stab wounds. That's how they were described. The couple who discovered Tina ended up filing a lawsuit against the Bank of Delaware because the Bank of Delaware refused to pay the reward. The couple, they discovered her, they reported her body was recovered, and the bank refused to pay. But one day after filing the suit, it was dropped and the couple were paid. Now, there are holes in the theories about who was responsible for the disappearance and death of Tina because, there usually are. There's usually holes. The theories are why I think the Lauser's daughter wanted nothing to do with speaking to me. Tom was interviewed and looked into heavily. The husband, the spouse, the wife, boyfriend, fiance, they're always looked into heavily. Tina was described as being a very loving person. Her sister said that Tina didn't like to be mad at people and didn't like when people were mad at her. All Tina wanted was to be happy and to be loved. I kind of skirted around this detail earlier in the episode because I didn't want to share it, because when I read about this or when I heard about this, it kind of came off as rumors. It didn't seem as fact. But after finishing the full Nefarious video, I found out that Tom did actually admit to hitting his wife early on in their marriage, but he never hit her, quote, too hard. Domestic violence is a very sensitive subject for a lot of people. It's very sensitive for me. And I didn't want to say early on in the episode, oh, Tom beat his wife. Again, because I didn't know if it was rumors, speculation. Apparently, he did admit to putting his hands on her a few times. He also said that they argued all of the time, but he did love her and that he was looking forward to her moving back in with him. According to Tom, the last time he saw his wife was 5 days prior to her disappearance. Tina was supposed to meet up with him at the club after work on the night of the 30th, but she never showed up because that's when she vanished. None of this is meant to say that I think Tom killed Tina. And I'm not insinuating that he even had anything to do with her death. I'm just stating facts here. Again, I didn't mention any allegations, or I didn't drop any domestic abuse info early on in the episode because at the time of writing it, I didn't know that Tom had actually admitted to it. There are other theories and accusations that have been thrown about, and most of those include Tom in some capacity. Tom has children and grandchildren now, so once again, stating this on the record, I'm not here to do harm, just to create awareness for this 40-year-old cold case. It's 40 years old. What I do know, and what I will say, is that the woman seen with Tina that evening absolutely knows something. And since she has never come forward to explain the situation, she absolutely had something to do with the murder. There, again, are theories, accusations. Tom was involved with this woman somehow. There's theories on the internet, a love triangle, which I don't know enough about the situation, but just from what I do know, that doesn't seem plausible. I'm not getting love triangle vibes from this. I'm not really getting much vibes at all. I don't know about you guys, but it's really awful what happened to Tina. I don't know why anyone would want to hurt her. The people who knew her loved her, said she loved them. It's just really sad. So I hope somebody eventually does come forward, because it would be really amazing for Tina's daughter, even Tina's grandchildren, to be able to get justice for her, and she could finally rest peacefully. With that being said, that's that for Tina. Again, I will hopefully get to Linda O'Day and Mary Amelia Allen in the future. I would love to do that. Love to give them, the episode they deserve. We'll see. As always, Crime Stoppers is there. You can report any information anonymously. You can call them on their toll-free line, or you can go to their website and report information, all anonymous. I don't think there's any reward on this case at this time, but you never know. Not that you should report things for the reward. Anyway, I'm rambling. So that's it. Thank you again for listening, everyone. I will be back with another episode next week. And this case and all the other cases just go to show you, if you thought nothing ever happened here in Delaware, you thought wrong. Bye, guys.